So you did it. You did the hard work. You figured out what you needed, you communicated it, you set a limit to protect your own peace. And what did you get in return? Nothing. Crickets. Just silence. And man, is it confusing. It's painful, and it can make you second-guess everything you just did. So let's get into it. Let's break down what that silence really means. Right? Because that's where your brain goes almost immediately. Oh no, was I too harsh? Did I say it wrong? Did I make a huge mistake? If that's you, you are so not alone. That feeling of self-doubt is an incredibly common reaction. In fact, sometimes it's the whole point. But before you start spiraling and blaming yourself, let's get really clear on what's actually happening here. Okay, this is probably the most crucial thing to understand right from the get-go. What you are experiencing is not a thoughtful, mature response. It is an instinctive, emotional reaction. You see, a response involves thinking, it involves consideration, it involves communication. A reaction, though, especially the silent treatment, that's a gut-level reflex. And it's usually all about control or a bruised ego or something else going on with them that has very little to do with you. So let's really dig into the core of it. Why does this happen? We're going to decode that reaction, because it turns out there are a few really key psychological reasons that explain why a perfectly healthy boundary can trigger such a dramatic and honestly such a painful wall of silence. A lot of the time, let's just be real, the number one reason is control. Think about it. When you set a boundary, you took away their ability to influence your actions. So silence becomes their next best weapon. It's a tool to try and control your emotions. It's a form of punishment, plain and simple. It's designed to make you feel so guilty, so anxious, so full of self-doubt that you actually start to learn to associate setting boundaries with feeling awful. But it's not always some kind of conscious power play. Sometimes the silence isn't about you at all. It's a direct reflection of what's going on in their inner world. Your boundary might have accidentally poked a deep wound, triggered some shame, or really hurt their ego. And for someone who just doesn't have the skills to regulate their emotions, withdrawing into silence can feel a whole lot safer than trying to talk about difficult feelings like disappointment or rejection. This brings up another really fascinating dynamic, the unspoken contract. So many relationships have these. They're these invisible rules that one person just assumes everyone agreed to. Maybe the rule was, you will always be available to me, or you will always absorb my bad moods. When you set a boundary, you've just broken a contract that they never even told you existed. And their silence? That's often just their resentment about it boiling over. And of course, we've got to talk about attachment styles. For someone with a more insecure attachment style, a boundary doesn't feel like a healthy, normal limit. To them, it can literally feel like abandonment, like you're cutting them off completely. In that case, the silence is a protest. It's a kind of desperate, passive attempt to get you to panic, to chase after them, and ultimately to tear down your own boundary just to prove you're not leaving. Okay, so we've decoded the why behind the silence, but now we get to what is by far the most important part of this whole explainer. We are going to completely reframe what the silence means for you, because it's not a judgment. It's not a verdict on who you are. It's just data. Just let that sink in for a second. Silence, after a boundary, is information. That's all it is. It is not proof that you are mean. It is not evidence that you are wrong. It is simply a message, and it's telling you something incredibly valuable about the other person and about the relationship itself. So what is this data telling you exactly? Well, it's revealing who was really benefiting from your lack of boundaries before. It's showing you clear as day who struggles with the idea of mutual respect. It's highlighting who thinks that being close means you have to comply with everything they want. And this brings us to the most crucial point of all. Healthy people might get disappointed by a boundary. They might even get a little hurt, but eventually they talk. They don't punish you with silence. And this is where we have to draw a very, very clear line in the sand. There is a massive difference between someone taking healthy space and someone giving you the silent treatment. Healthy space is about self-regulation. The intent is to calm down so you can talk later. It's communicated. Someone might say, hey, I'm upset, I need an hour, and it's temporary with the goal of repairing the connection. The silent treatment is the exact opposite. The intent is to punish. It's unexplained, it's indefinite, and the only goal is to pressure you into giving in. Okay, let's bring all this together for the big takeaway. This is all about understanding the truth of what's happening so you can finally stop blaming yourself for someone else's inability to handle a healthy limit. So let's be perfectly clear. Their silence is not proof that you were wrong. It is not evidence that you were cruel or harsh. And maybe most importantly, it is absolutely 100% not your job to fix it. Your responsibility ends with communicating your boundary respectfully. Their reaction is their own. And this, right here, is the fundamental truth I want you to hold on to. A boundary doesn't create a problem in a healthy relationship. It can't. What a boundary does is it shines a huge spotlight on a connection that was already fragile or one-sided or maybe wasn't as safe as you thought. It doesn't create the distance. It just reveals the distance that was already there all along. So, the next time you set a boundary and you're met with that deafening wall of silence, I want you to stop asking, "What did I do wrong?" I want you to look at the data you've just been handed and ask a brand new question. What is the silence telling me? What is it telling me about the health and the safety and the reality of this connection? Because the answer to that question, well, that might just be all the clarity you need.